Hello, and welcome to Weed and Grub.
Does, what's his name, Pippi and Mary? Who are they? The twins.
I'm not saying.
Come on.
No, you know.
Pippin and Mary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There you go.
Do they either gotta die, get out of the way, or step up. This is
I love the
time.
Lord of the Rings related frustration that you're experiencing right now. It's so fucking crazy that you've never seen those movies.
I don't know anything about them. My pops tried to get me to read the books, and I loved reading the book that's like adjacent to it for me about the universe. No.
What?
32 and the universe and stuff like that.
Are you talking about the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy,
That's
yeah.
not related to Lord of the Rings. Oh my fucking God. I'm gonna fucking... No.
Yeah, and I kind
Hitchhiker's
of
Guide
like
to the
that
Galaxy
book.
is a entirely separate and wonderful series.
Yeah.
Not related.
Okay, well then I got... No,
And it's 42.
42.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you. I tried to start The Hobbit and it just didn't stick with me because of whatever reasons it didn't stick, so I never dove into the books. And now I'm getting, Sam Knuckles, friend of the show, friend in real life.
Yes, recently married.
Recently
Congrats,
married.
Sam.
Yeah, Chef to the Stars. He was like, dude, those are the best movies. Those are the best books. I've reread them all a million times. And I'm like, well, then how come nobody's talking about Pippin and Mary, like ruining Frodo's life? Like that, if nothing else, this is a lesson in like keeping your circle tight and getting rid of the dead weight.
This is also, I would argue that this is a lesson in like sticking through the whole thing and seeing what true friends are, what they mean.
That's what I'm saying. Like
how they show up in the end.
As I keep getting dabbed out,
heart.
because I'm ready for them to be different.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
Yeah,
it's so fucking
they're
frustrating.
Annoying. They're supposed to be comic relief, but it's just like a constant series of things that get them into terrible trouble and almost killed every single time.
Every single time.
Yeah.
Like all you have to do is nothing.
Yeah.
And you can't help yourself to do nothing.
Totally. But I've been that person.
You've never had a bucket on your head and another one on your foot and you're going, whoa, 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 while orcs are after you?
Well, not in that way, but like sometimes I just can't help sticking my finger into something and just being like, well, what is this going to do? What is this going to do? I'm poking at it. You know what I mean? I'm an instigator.
Not when life is on the line.
Totally.
Totally when life is on the line?
Absolutely.
We are not.
My eyes boil for a fight all the time.
Oh my God.
Also, can I say something about like the universe and everything? The answer being 42.
Yeah.
Isn't that your cutoff date for when people are allowed to be politicians?
I've thought a lot about that tweet, and wow, honestly,
Maybe that's
42,
where you got it from.
Maybe that's where I got it from.
That's the answer to life, the universe, and everything, according to Douglas Adams.
Yeah.
42.
And it was my hockey number. There's a lot going on in here to unpack.
Wait, it was?
I deleted that tweet, by the way.
Well, because, I mean, you know.
What up, Mary Jane?
How's it going, Mike?
I deleted that tweet.
I know.
Because I'm so angry at our politicians, but it's misdirected ageism when I'm calling for only young dope people to make dope decisions for us.
Right. And I was like, okay, I'm over 42. Also, being old is not the same as being out of touch. You can be old and fucking awesome.
Right.
And there are so many older and old people doing fucking cool shit in the world. Like Jane Goodall comes to mind. You know what I mean? Like important shit. And we should listen to our fucking elders, and that's how we learn. But I totally get it that like irritating old fucking lizards like Mitch fucking McConnell are like ruining things for everyone coming after him, and you want him to just like go away.
Go away.
Go away.
But it's the wrong line to divide people with. The line to divide good and evil should be a very clear line, and it isn't about age.
But I mean, your sentiment is like it's the same as, never trust anyone over 30. That was the fucking statement in the 60s during the Vietnam War. Yeah, all the fucking people who were being drafted, they were like, you're sending us to war for something that you fucked up and we're dying for it. Never trust anyone over 30. So you've like upped it to 42.
Yeah.
But because I'm older than that,
I'm
like, yo, dude, I'm okay, right? Like, I don't want to be shut down and told that I don't have a voice because I'm over a certain age,
You're not in politics, and those who are, I just need
Also,
politicians.
I'm awesome. Hello.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, no. You are awesome. That is so, yes, you are fucking awesome. I'm fucking up left and right.
I'm not. No, you're not fucking up. I mean, I'm glad to talk about it with you. I'm not in politics, but I might want to be. You know,
I think about it every day.
More than now, more than ever.
Oh my God! Well, let's get into that in a second.
Platitude.
Let's put a pin in that and then come back to now more than ever.
In that platitude.
Do you really think about getting into politics right now?
I think about doing what my friend Meg is doing, which is getting involved at a local, like a city level. She ran for a position in Brooklyn. I can't even remember what it is, but she works on like a local council in Brooklyn, and that on grassroots level, she's supporting candidates who then support higher up candidates, and so she's a part of that whole system in a really cool, effective way for where she lives. And she just is so active and fucking educated about everything that's happening, and she educates all of her friends. She's like, come to me if you have questions about a candidate or you want to know anything about this policy or this bill or whatever. And it's fucking cool, and I would love to do that sort of thing to feel engaged, useful, and channel some of this fury that I have into something productive.
That's a positive supernova because it shoots out in ways that will affect, like, you know, the waves that you might not even see.
Yeah.
You know,
like, you know, the squad and the congresswomen, like AOC, you know, and all of those women, like, they are so furious, but they are all channeling it into something so wonderful that is changing the world. And they're so inspiring to me. And they're also all fucking young and energized. And it's just fucking cool to see. So I'm inspired by them, and I would love to join them on some level at some point, you know, very soon. Right now. I'm announcing my candidacy for mayor of my house. What do you think, Archie? He's on board.
You put a sign in your front yard.
Yeah.
And then
I'm in charge here. Which is basically, I don't even want to fucking bring that shit up. Anywho.
Well, I mean, it gets into what we were going to talk about in the cannabis world this week.
Yeah.
Because I think about throwing my comedy career away every day because of COVID and because of Corona and because I feel less funny the more and more I feel. And I'm like, but I can hit this fucking cannabis thing head on because I know what I know, I believe what I believe, and I think my heart's in the right fucking place. And it's not with people like Boehner, and it's not with Acreage Holding posting what is like kind of an All Lives Matter Instagram post the other day.
Wait, who did?
Acreage Holding.
Oh,
yeah.
Really?
Did you watch the Hassan Minaj
yes.
Patriot Act on
Yes,
cannabis?
I did.
Yeah, so I watched that the other night, and it was a pretty good overall view. Like, they crammed a lot into 22 minutes.
That's a lot of info.
It's so much info,
Yeah.
and it's like, if you want to dig deep, now you can take the onus upon yourself to dig deep from the broad strokes that they provided.
He really unpacks how legal marijuana is rigged.
Yeah.
Like, that's a big part of it. And I thought, they did a really good job.
Yeah, it was a nice job of like of being like, if you don't have 100 mil, you're out of here, and they're already squeezing out like the farmers who put their livelihood on the line to try and make something of themselves. Like, it's not even fucking federally legal yet, and small business is being fucking wedged out.
Yeah.
So,
like our fucking guest today.
Yeah. Exactly. Before we get to our guest, who he warmed my heart and filled my soul, I just want to talk a little bit about the weed industry and where it is right now, since we're all feeling bothered as fuck.
So, are you gonna
run for mayor of cannabis?
Oh, interesting.
No, I don't want to be mayor. I talk about it on here a lot, and the more I want to burn it all down, meaning, just do things the right way for community instead of for profit. Not that there's anything wrong with making money, but when it kills people, it's super wrong.
Well, it's conscious capitalism that you're after, right?
Ooh, thank you. Okay, so I'm running with Mary Jane. We're running together.
Co-mayors,
of conscious capitalism. Yeah, exactly. Like, I fucking defund the police, Black Lives Matter, and in the cannabis game, too many people aren't standing for anything because I don't even want to speak for them. I'm just not seeing much popping.
Yeah, it's been a fucking bummer. And there's an amazing accountability list that was posted today on Canaclusive, at Canaclusive. You can follow them on Instagram and click the link in their bio. And there's an accountability list that is being updated all the time. It's a live document with cannabis companies, what they've done, what the statement is that they've released, whether or not they released a statement in support of the Black Lives Matter movement, and how many people of color are employed by the company, just notes, like a whole series of notes that you can read through. Like I was really fucking disappointed that there was a company that I really love that had blocked and deleted Instagram comments with people who were questioning their fucking lack of support for the movement. Like this company was just like, nope. And they blocked and deleted people. It's just crazy. So check that out because it's really important, I think, right now to, invest your money and your fucking, energy and your voice into companies that are doing the right thing.
Yeah.
I'm
embarrassed that I can't donate more.
Yeah.
All the fucking time.
Me too.
I'm like embarrassed that I'm not rich. Is that weird to say?
Not at all. I mean, embarrassed is, I think, a strong way to feel about it, but
I feel guilty about it because like if I had like a fucking bag, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I want that bag to go to things I believe in.
Yeah.
And I don't have that bag and I get embarrassed about that.
And there are cannabis companies with that bag who are doing nothing with it to give back to the communities that built the movement.
Yeah.
Nothing. And, there are obviously companies that are doing good work, great work in some cases. And anyway, Can-Inclusive is one of the collectives that is holding businesses, cannabis and hemp businesses, accountable.
Great.
Yeah.
Fucking right.
Yeah.
You know the other thing about Lord of the Rings that's driving me nuts?
What?
Like everyone's like the extended cut. Like, are you watching extended or regular?
Yeah.
And it's like,
there's only so many hours in a day.
Oh my God, I don't know what to do. It's like the choice between 3 hours and 4 hours is a pretty big choice.
It's a big choice.
And I'm still making a promise. I'm loving the movies. I need to get that out of the way. I'm fucking loving
Aren't
just
they
getting dabbed out
gorgeous?
And watching these movies.
Yeah.
So I will watch the extended probably sometime.
Sure.
I had no idea like the kind of like
it was
like the people who were like, dude, no, stop where you are.
Yeah.
Dive into extended. It'll answer so many more questions. And I'm like, oh man, like this is a fandom that I haven't seen in so long that I'm really excited to like hear people touting. Like it's been a real big positive in my life to see how thrilled folks are about Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, Tolkien. I mean, there are people who go to school to learn how to speak Elvish. Like Tolkien,
wow, that's fucking cool.
Created an entire world that people study for their lifetimes. So the fact that Peter Jackson made the trilogy as beautifully as he did, and then released extra, they all came out in the theaters, and then there was the extended version. It was so thrilling. At the time, it was totally groundbreaking. So much of the aspect ratio of like the hobbits next to Gandalf or any of the
insane.
It's crazy. You'd never seen anything like that before 20 years ago. So it's really cool to be watching them with you again.
Yeah.
And also to have like my own kind of pretty deep knowledge of Tolkien to be like, I'm pretty excited by it. When you're like, who's that? And I'm like, well, it's Boromir and it's Faramir's brother and he's played by actor Sean Bean. I'm a nerd.
I've always wondered about that upper back tattoo that's like this huge map. And I was like, what is the Shire? Why is there a map?
Yeah, and smog is at the bottom of my neck right there.
Yeah. Shadowfax on your forearm.
Yeah.
Totally.
Shadowfax.
That's so good. The other Jinx, you should, I don't know. I don't like Coca-Cola.
Okay.
Because they're not posting anything about BLM.
Fuck
so
that.
Anyway, the other thing I'm loving about it right now is like punching up the pizzas, the frozen pizzas in your fridge.
Yeah.
Because it's not enough anymore for me to just throw a pie in the oven, but making a little bit of extra chicken breast, some pickled jalapenos and some Parmesan cheese. When you pull that pizza out halfway through and top it up.
Yeah, like a Trader Joe's margarita pizza topped with goat cheese and pickled jalapenos and a little like roast chicken. Oh my God. And then last night you served it up with some like blue cheese dipping sauce on the side.
You know it.
Never in my life have I had such a crazy delicious pizza.
You know, if it says 12 minutes at 400 degrees, set your timer for 8.
Yeah.
Pull it out, retop it, let all that stuff get heated and melted. I'm talking like nobody's done this and everyone is screaming, yeah, dude, we all smoke weed and try our best to live great lives. Like everyone's like, yeah, dum-dum.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people just order Domino's, which is totally fine. I lived on Domino's when I was like working cannabis cups and shit, and I would live in a house with a bunch of people who dabbed all day. Like Domino's was breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah. That
was totally great. I have an affinity for it. I love the way those little pepperoni slices grease up real nice. But yeah.
Last thing then, before we get to our incredible guest.
Okay.
Speaking of Domino's,
Yes.
I was watching a YouTube video from Rhett and Link's Mythical Kitchen.
Okay.
And you know how you make the roast chicken and you put bread underneath it to soak it all up?
Yeah, it's a Barefoot Contessa recipe.
They took a roast chicken, zhuzhed it, took old pizza from Domino's from the night before, cut it up, sauteed it with like carrots, onions, and just kind of sweated it all out to make stuffing, stuffed that day old pizza into the roast chicken to make day old pizza stuffing, and then took old crazy bread, which is just garlic Parmesan bread, and put it underneath the same way that you would put sourdough underneath. And so all the fat and juice and drippings from the roast chicken soaked into that Domino's crazy bread in the skillet, and that's how they cooked that meal.
It deserves a moment of silence because it's so fucking amazing.
Yeah.
That was the sound of my mind blowing. It was just total quiet.
But it's just an empty abyss.
It's like, what?
Isn't that wild?
Yeah. Wow. Oh my God.
So,
okay.
Yeah. That's
Goals. Pizza goals.
Pizza goals.
Yeah.
Next pizza goal, roast chicken.
I mean, I made pizza dough last weekend because I got some yeast and I was like, I think I could, I can't do bread. I'm not that fancy, but I could like attempt a pizza dough. So yeah, maybe we could try our own version.
Yes.
Yeah.
Roast pizza. Roast.
Roast.
You get it.
Pizza stuffed roast chicken on top of crazy bread.
Yep.
Okay.
In a pan drip.
We'll post pictures if this happens. I might not survive the experience.
That's the only problem.
Just explode from joy in the moment.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's get to our guest.
Let's get to our awesome guest. We spoke with Ron Leggett this week. Ron Leggett is a social equity license holder for a cannabis business called Chiefing in Oakland, which was housed in the Magnolia Wellness Dispensary, which was robbed during the wave of protests. They believe it was people using the protests as cover. These were not protesters who robbed Magnolia Wellness, and Ron Leggett lost everything in the robberies. And he was gracious enough to join us and talk to us about his business and just how he's...
And his GoFundMe link.
Yep.
So if you can share that link, support him. We out here supporting.
Yeah.
So without further ado, here's our interview with
Ron Leggett.
What up, Mary Jane?
How's it going, Mike?
We have a great guest.
Yeah, we have a fantastic guest.
Thank you for joining us. Would you mind introducing yourself and telling the people listening a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. My name is Ron Leggett, and I own Chiefing Manufacturing in Oakland, California. It's a non-volatile manufacturing company, and we make pre-rolls.
And you and I were introduced by Debbie Goldsberry, who runs Magnolia Wellness. And because Chiefing was incubated in Magnolia as a social equity licensee, is that right?
Correct, yes. Debbie's a rock star. She's so good to me. From the first day we met, she's just been amazing.
That's awesome. I know that, part of the reason that we were introduced was because Magnolia Wellness and Chiefing were hit in the robberies that happened last weekend, like so many other businesses in cannabis were hit, and I am so sorry to hear it. And I just wanted to first start out by saying, like, how are you holding up? How are you doing in the aftermath of the robberies?
I must admit, today was one of my up days. It's been a roller coaster ride for sure. I can't say I never thought something like this was like out of the picture, but the level of devastation, and then I don't know, the timing of it was just, I thought was really just odd in a way. And it's just, I still don't really understand it, or can't put my mind around it all the way. Because
does it feel like targeted racism?
no, I don't know if it was targeted racism, but it definitely wasn't protesters. This was, from my understanding, from what the overnight watchman said and whatnot, that this was an organized group that came in with weapons and the heavy equipment and things like what they needed to get the job done. And then when the police didn't come in a timely manner, I understand the whole city was pretty much, burning down, to say, and what it took them over an hour to get there, and it provided the the robbers plenty of time to do whatever they wanted to do.
Man, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's just so crazy that, especially that the law enforcement were aware that armed robbers were targeting dispensaries and failed to notify businesses so you could protect yourselves.
Exactly. If somebody would just said something Friday night, and I don't know, an email, a text message, or whatever, and just told us, hey, there's a rash last night of burglaries or armed robberies, whatever you want to call them. You might want to move your stuff to a safe location. I would have did it. And the first break-in was pretty much a total loss. And then when the next group or whoever came back the next night, there was really nothing there to take. I mean, there was, some things, but they just destroyed everything. Whatever they didn't take, they just broke. And it was really, that's what kind of, I think the second night, I think that's where it still hurts talking about it. And that's where it hits me, because as a person of color myself, who's been a victim of a lot of, institutional racism and the struggle of trying to get this business up, and it feels like, the deck is against you and you're just fighting. I put all this money into this business and I'm right there on the cusp of launching my first product. And 2 weeks before the date when this happens, this thing happens, and it just devastated me. It is absolutely devastating. But I'll tell you, there's one really good thing about this, and it's the same way how you and I met. I've met so many people in our community that have stepped up I mean, it's incredible that we have the best community that I've ever been involved with before, and that comes from the heart.
That's so cool to hear that the community support is helping right now. Can you talk a little bit about chiefing? Like what were you going to launch on June 8th, and when you rebuild, what can we expect from you? So
my first pre-roll that we were launching is called the Numero Uno, and it's a blend of indica and sativa. It should test right around the 19-20% range, hopefully, and it's
ooh, that's my sweet spot.
It's a nice spot, right? And I personally picked it out myself, and I really like it, and I think a lot of other people are going to like it as well. So that's our first product. Out of this issue that came about, I met some other people who've reached out to me in the industry too, and have basically told me, Ron, we want to help. We just want to break even. You can come down, pick out whatever flower you want, whatever you want to do. I'll donate the tubes, I'll donate the labels, and I'll front you the flower. And it will help you get it in distribution. I mean, it just the whole chain, and just how many emails and the outpouring. That's the one thing that has kept me going, Mary Jane. That's the only thing that has kept me going, because 2 or 3 days after that, I was telling my wife, I said, I think this is it. I said, we put everything into it. We have nothing else left to put into it. And I really think that, I gave it my all, and I'm sorry that I blew the savings. And she goes, no. And then I said, well, something might come out of it, right? And then Debbie opened up the GoFundMe the next day, and that changed everything.
Yes.
It really did. Changed everything. And God bless Debbie. God bless the community. That's the whole reason I'm talking to you, and I love it. I love it.
I'm just looking up the GoFundMe right now, because the last time I checked in on it, it was a little over halfway. And yeah, we're going to share a link too, so folks who are listening can contribute, because it's getting there. It looks like a lot of people are sharing it if they can't donate, and giving what they can if they're able to give a little money, and it's just really cool to see.
And just the partnerships that I've received now too is I'm telling you, it's the best thing. Talk about spinning something into a positive. That was a total loss, negative. I just might come out of this ahead of where I was if everything works out. I mean, that's amazing, right?
Yeah.
Go
Fantastic.
figure. A couple of days ago,
Yeah.
I saw my wife. I thought it was all over, and then here I am thinking I might come out ahead. I can't believe
Good,
it.
you deserve to.
Could you share with our listeners a little bit about your history, your story, the process of getting the license that you have now?
People tell me I have a really good story. I just tell it as it is, as I tell them. I just don't know if it's a great story. It's up to you guys, I guess, to determine if it's good or not. But both my parents are Native American. My dad's family is originally from Leggett, my last name. And Leggett is in Northern California, where Highway 1 and 101 come to a point. That's Leggett. That's where the Second Trail of Tears was, and my dad's family is part of Second Trail of Tears and taken to Round Valley Covelo. My mom is 100% Pomo, and she's from Ukiah. But both my parents met in Oakland because of the 1956 Indian Relocation Act. So they're both from that area, and then my brother and I were, as I identify myself, a first-generation urban Native American because I was born here in Oakland on Old East 14th Street at Oakland Hospital. So I have a lot of history with my family and whatnot of cultivation in that area from Ukiah on up, to Covelo and above. And I just was always into it, but I had other jobs and things like that at the time that just didn't allow me to really get into it the way I really wanted to be into it. So I was always, sneaking around and things like that, and dabbling here and dabbling there, but it was always a part of my life, and so I said, a friend of mine came to me, because I was, at the time, I was the executive director of the Oakland Food Pantry. And I was down at the City Hall for a meeting about food and things like that. So this guy says, "Hey, did you hear about what's coming?" I said, "Well, what are you talking about?" He said, "Well, the city of Oakland's going to open up cannabis. Anybody get a license?" And I said, "Anybody can't get a license." I said, "They already have that thing rigged." I said, "Whoever's going to win, they already know who's going to win." And he said, "No," he goes, "you might want to try. I think you might be a good fit for it." So anyway, I said, well, I thought about it, and I went home again. I'm sitting down with my wife, and I said, "You know what? If I don't try, I'll kick myself for the rest of my life. So I at least got to put my name in the hat to say, right?" So we filled out the dispensary application forms, and I actually won one of the dispensary permits in 2018 as well. I've had a really hard time finding funding for it, and it has this equity component to it that I haven't really seen many of the deals that reflect the intent of the equity program. So I really just can't sign it as well because it has that equity component to it. So it's been tough.
Meaning you would give away a lot of the dispensary by opening one?
Well, it wouldn't be so bad. Yes, I mean it's pretty much a 50-50 deal. But I haven't seen anybody offer me anything close to that deal. And I always say, if someone came to me with something that reflected the intent of the Oakland Equity Program, it would be a slam dunk. But I just haven't seen that yet, and it's been a very competitive and aggressive market of investors that I've seen, and I just can't do it because my background is really community based, and that's how I found out about the whole thing, is because I was at something at City Hall for the food pantry. So I figured I'd apply. I won. In the meantime, I was going to an equity meeting. Let me back up. I was going to Oaksterdam at the time. I decided.
Oh, wow.
I decided
to learn how to grow?
Just to learn everything. So I took the horticulture and the classic semester course. So I stayed there a little over a year, met everybody, loved Dale, everybody. It was just a great time. Another great community. And at the time I was there, and I met one of the instructors after class. I gave him my business card that I was the executive director of the Oakland Food Pantry. So he goes, "Wow," he goes, "have you ever met Debbie Goldsberry at Magnolia?" And I said, "No, I haven't." He goes, "Come by tomorrow, and I'd like to introduce you guys." So we started a food program to where I would take food to Debbie's place, dispensary, and then Debbie would have food for. She would put it on her Facebook page, and then they would have people come in who needed the food, and they would get it. So we had that going on for a while. And she never knew what I was trying to do or attempting to do.
Mm-hmm.
She just knew that I was going to Oaksterdam. So anyway, I go to an equity mixer that the city was hosting, and the stairs that lead up to this platform, and I'm walking up the stairs, and Debbie is walking on the platform. We meet at the same exact time, and she looks at me. We know each other because we've been doing the food thing for several months now. And she goes, "What are you doing here?" I said, "I'm looking for an equity mixer thing." And she goes, "Hold on, don't go anywhere." So then that was how Debbie and I met, and that's how chiefing ended up at Magnolia. And then, of course, then the break-ins happen, and then that's how Debbie and I are like this. And it's now we're even closer than ever since we've gone through this traumatic, incident together. And I really feel
what a crazy time.
I really feel for Magnolia as well, because as bad as I got hit and mine was a total loss, so was theirs. And just to show everybody how big her heart is, before they even started their GoFundMe, they launched my GoFundMe for me. And I thought that was a really, really nice thing and a very classy thing to do. And I really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart.
That's awesome to hear. I have been following everything on Facebook, reading the Magnolia Wellness page, and just seeing the updates for what they're going through. And it sounds like they're trying to reopen within the next couple of weeks. But one of the things that Debbie said on her Facebook was that they're not going to reopen until they know that law enforcement is going to be able to respond to some of these robberies.
Totally.
Because it seems like they kind of left Magnolia Wellness and chiefing like high and dry. They didn't respond.
That's how I feel. And then I feel for the landlord. The landlord came in after the first break-in, sealed up the building, did all this work, and then they came back in that same night and did even more damage than they did the first night when they came in. So now it's all boarded up, and we don't even have access to anything. I can't even go in there if I wanted to start cleaning up and finish cleaning up. It's just a total. When I saw it, I just looked in there, and it was a total loss.
Yeah, the pictures are crazy. And I was looking at some of the pictures of the destruction of your place, and it looks like there are bullets lodged in some of the electronic equipment.
Yeah, so they shot my DVR 2 times with a 9mm. One of the rounds went straight through the DVR and was lodged in the floor. The other one was stuck in the DVR. The third one ricocheted off the top and is lodged in the wall. They're lucky someone didn't really get hurt in there that night. As if there was 20 people running around in there and someone shooting a gun and possibility of ricocheting as well. And it was there. It's just they really got lucky in a way. And then the amazing art of technology. I'm a little bit older. I'm not that hot with technology. I'm still constantly learning and struggling with it. But the police were able to pull footage out of there. They said, I haven't seen any of it. And they said that they have possible faces that they can recognize maybe. And they asked me if I wanted to press charges, if they could catch them. And I told them, yes, I would, because like I said, these aren't protesters. These were criminals. So
I also was learning through your story about how insurance is able to skirt around paying anything because of loophole after loophole.
It always seems like that. Ever since we were kids, when we used to watch cartoons, I was telling a friend of mine, I said, I don't know if you remember, a long time ago, there was this old cartoon where they said something about, well, you're not covered unless there's a pack of wild elephants running through or something. Then in the cartoons, there's a wild elephant herd that ran through. And so when I was very nice people, and I've had them for a while, but it's just in the policy and how the underwriters and the carriers and all them set these things up, I guess, to where cannabis just is not covered the way other businesses are covered. And it's unfortunate that it appears that they don't want to write the policies to cover us to where product and cash and other things like that are covered, where in other businesses, if you lost all your inventory, it would probably be covered. And that's why when the police came and he said, well, how much do you think you lost? And I said, well, he goes, well, just give me a total. He didn't even let me finish. And he goes, well, just give me a total. I said, well, I think it's around 20 grand just by standing here looking at it. I said, I don't know. I don't even know what's missing totally. I still need to go through everything. And probably next week I'll still be saying, oh, that thing too, and this thing, or it might be a year by the time I realize it. And then he goes, oh, that's it? Best Buy lost $1 million the other night. And I just the
Wow.
vibe that was thrown at me when he said it, I couldn't keep my mouth shut. It's one of my problems sometimes. And I looked at him, I said, yeah, but they're probably fully insured as well. And he just looked at me, and his buddy looked at me, and I was thinking, oh no. I said, I better just keep my mouth shut and get my report number and thank them and just let them go. But it kind of felt like they were belittling that, I only had, X amount of cash in there. And luckily, my first run was supposed to start yesterday. So I was very lucky that I didn't lose really everything total, that I could have lost. I lost.
Because the cannabis wasn't on site, you mean? Like
Yes.
the product
Yeah.
wasn't
So
there
it's
yet.
all paid for,
Yeah.
but it's still at the facility. COVID-19 saved me of all things. I've been bowing because where I was having them manufactured for me, they had some issues in their county where they had to come up and develop some other processes within their manufacturing building to where they had to stop. And because of that stoppage that they had, I was sitting here without, because I was supposed to have my stuff out, and it was almost total devastation to where unless like this miracle angel person would come through and bail me out. But other than that, I really got lucky in a sense that it was still at the manufacturing facility waiting to be manufactured.
I've been learning so much about the insurance and, the fact that, cannabis being illegal at a federal level means that they're not, cannabis businesses don't have access to safe banking because most financial institutions won't work with the cannabis industry, which means that insurance companies won't cover the cannabis industry. So even though it's been declared an essential business, you still don't have access to federal relief. The whole thing is infuriating. It just must be like such a crazy place to be in as a business owner.
And that's why I always refer to the deck being stacked against us. As long as we don't have banking, unfortunately, I hate to say it, we're going to be sitting ducks. And that's one of the things when I was laying on my bed, curled up in a ball, thinking and whatnot after this all happened, I was saying, as long as we don't have banking, we'll always be in jeopardy of losing. We can replace a lot of other things as equipment and things like that, but when it comes to cash and product, it's going to be hard to not only get them insured, but just to replace them. And I was speaking to another equity applicant friend of mine who had $250,000 that was of product that was fronted to him from a cultivator that he had in several dispensaries, and all of those dispensaries were also hit, meaning he lost and he's out because none of that stuff was insured in any way, shape, or form. So he's even worse in than I am, and I really feel for. I can imagine there's a lot of other stories out there, and I could really feel for all the people like me who's put everything they have into these businesses, and then we got wiped out. And it's really hard to say I'll be back because when you put everything into it, there's nothing to put in there anymore to guarantee that you'll be back. And that's why the GoFundMe was the biggest thing for me ever.
Well, we'll definitely put a link to the GoFundMe in the show notes. And where can people find you to follow your journey?
Well, I'm working on the website now, and then I'm working on a lot of different social media platforms, just getting them going. It's just right this moment, I honestly kind of went into a hibernation phase, and I'm just coming out of it. But I look to have all these things up and running by the end of the month to where people can find me. And I know I'm kind of hard to find right now. It's kind of funny. People always say it. When I came, I have 2 daughters at home, and my wife and 2 daughters. So one of the things that has always been one of my main concerns and my wife's concerns is maintaining our sense of safety as well. In order to be an equity applicant in Oakland, you have to live in a certain police beat in the city that has a higher rate of crime than other ones. So as an equity applicant living in a police beat that has a higher rate of crime, and I just try to stay as low as I possibly can. And like my buddy always says, hey man, the same way you've been doing for the last 35 years, man, just operate low and until you can get out of there. So that's the goal. This has always been a dream of mine. I never thought I'd see this come about in my lifetime. So when I saw it come about, that's why I said I had to jump in and try it. And now I really think I am going to be successful at it. Coming out of this, the Phoenix will rise. And I think that the next step is we'll be launching some different products. I'm looking at doing some minis. And then I'm looking at doing a double packed where we have 2 pre-rolls stuffed into 1 tube as well. So that's some of the other things that I'm working on with this other gentleman that I met through this process. So hopefully I'll have 2 or 3 SKUs coming out in the next month or so as well.
Great. I can't wait to check it out next time we're in the Bay Area and come through and say hello in person.
For sure.
Also, it's kind of beautiful to hear you share your story and how you've worked with the community, you've given back to the community. And for me, weed is all about community. It's how I've made my closest friends. It's how I've met the people that are dearest to me. And so there's something like positive, maybe, I'm not sure what the word is, about just hearing the community being there for you also, the way you've been here for it.
Oh yeah, it's all about community. My family's always been community based. I remember standing in lines to get cheese and things like that with my mom. I was raised by a single mom, and I understood that, and then that's why the whole food pantry thing originated out of a dinner conversation with a friend of mine. We were sitting down discussing, both from Oakland, lifelong residents, and we were discussing what we thought the major issues were in the city of Oakland. And then we took it a little bit deeper, and we said, well, what are the root causes of those issues? And then we got a napkin out, we were drawing on, we were all, there's food, so we put hunger and safety and shelter. And then I said, well, what do you think's the easiest one to do out of the 3? He goes, food by far. So we left it at that, and I woke up the next morning. I don't know what happened that night, and there was a drive inside of me that I woke up that next morning, and that's what I was going to do. That's all I had on my mind. I knew that's what I had to do. So I called up my buddy, and I said, hey, Greg, I said, I had this thought. And he goes, I had the same thought you had. And I said, what do you mean? And he goes, let's do it. And I said, I said, feed people? He goes, yes. And we both had pickups at the time, and 2 little Toyota pickups. And we used to drive around, because we're both from Oakland. We'd drive around, and we'd identified all these different places that had food. And I said, well, my wife's cousin's brother's dog's sister works at that Safeway, and maybe I can get a connection there. And so that's what we start doing. And he goes, oh, I know a lady who works at this restaurant. Maybe they could get us something. So we start going around hustling food at all these places. We didn't even have a 501c3 at the time. It was just a thought in our head. And he said, well, where do you want to take this food? I said, let's take it to West Oakland. Because traditionally West Oakland has always been the poorer part of Oakland. And it's been a food desert for over 50 years, meaning that there's no grocery store or healthy food source within X amount of miles. And it's been like that for 50 years. So there's liquor stores and other things like that. So we went down to like the roughest part of West Oakland, set up these folding tables, and put out all the stuff we had. Instantly, it was a hit. People were coming out, and we looked at each other, and we were like, oh my God, I didn't realize how much of a need there really was. And this was back in 2010. And so we kept going and going, and we filed for the 501c3 and received it in June of 2011. And he ended up having to do some other things, and I took over. And then at our peak of the food pantry, we were doing 500,000 pounds of food a year with an estimated value of $750,000. So from an idea,
Wow.
from a dinner napkin all the way to that, it was just one heck of a ride. And I recently handed it off to somebody else, and so I could transition into my new arena, as I call it, which is the cannabis industry. And I'm hoping to have that same success that I had there in the cannabis industry.
You will.
You will.
Absolutely will. Ron, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, you guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
If you would like to learn more about Ron, Mary Jane said, we will be posting a bunch of links with this show episode and on our IG, and you can check out our IG at Weed and Grub or email us at wg@weedandgrub.com.
Thanks so much, Ron.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.